All right, let's take a look at how a coaching conversation might flow and use this flow chart to help us with the decision making that happens kind of in the moment when we find ourselves in a coaching conversation. This is based on the work of Lippman and Wellman, who are in the Miravia company. They created a continuum of learning focused interaction, which I use to guide coaching conversations in the work that I do. So, what might this look like? When we find ourselves in a coaching conversation, we always want to start in a coaching stance. So, we might find ourselves asking a probing question, some kind of question that's going to kick us off. And then, depending on how our coachee responds to our question, that's going to be an indicator to us as coaches to determine does their response keep me in a coaching stance? Are they showing me that they have the capacity and the content knowledge that gives my question the right kind of answer to stay in a coaching stance? If the answer is yes, then you're going to continue with maybe another follow up question or another type of coaching tool that you want to use to pull out of them what they already have and help them tap into what they're working with. Then you might ask yourself again, does their response keep me in that coaching stance? And you would be able to continue to keep your conversation flowing. After each question, you're going to kind of ask yourself that, am I staying in this coaching stance? Does their response kind of keep me here? And you can kind of just keep flowing with that. But there are times that we will find that their answer actually is a really big indicator that we might need to shift stances a little bit and shift what our support looks like. Because remember, in a coaching stance, the person doing most of the work, most of the lift, most of the thinking and talking is going to be our coachee and not us as coaches. So if we find that we're having to step in a little bit more, we're going to find that we're shifting stances. So if the answer is no, like this does not keep me in a coaching stance, then you're going to shift to a collaborative stance and you're going to want to lean on those types of tools where you and the coachee are really more 50-50 in the development of where they need to go to move their instruction forward, to move their classroom management forward. Whatever it is that you're kind of working on, you're going to want to be prepared with whatever it is that collaborative stance might be calling on you for. And so you might then find yourself doing a collaborative stance type question or activity. And then you're going to have another response from your coachee. And that response presents you with the opportunity to ask again, does this keep me in the collaborative stance? Are they getting what we're kind of working through? Do they have anything that they're bringing to the table? If the answer is yes, then you want to continue with that collaborative stance. But if the answer is no, you may find yourself actually shifting to the consultative stance, which then requires you to really be guiding the work and saying, okay, here's what we're going to try. Right? Let's walk through it together and I'm going to send you off, or we're going to do some practice here before I send you off to give this a try. So thinking about your coaching conversations from this flow chart helps you think about after each response from your coachee, you've got some internal work to do to help determine how is this coaching conversation going to flow. And this allows you to stay responsive as a coach. Now, one thing that you can think about is being prepared for this conversation. Okay. So this is just a sample template that you could use to help you get set up. Remember, we're going to start with a coaching stance question. So we're going to start there regardless of the stance we think we might be in with this person, right? And you're going to kind of think about a question based on what you anticipate a bite-sized action needing to be. Maybe you're following up after a classroom observation and you've identified that high leverage action item that needs to take place for this teacher. So you want to make sure that you're focusing your questions on guiding the conversation to discuss that. Then based on that response, right, you want to be prepared for a coaching stance, for a collaborative stance, for a consultative stance. So what's the difference? Well, number one, we're going to want to lean on the different tools that we have in our toolkit for each of those stances. And remember, you're going to want to reference the toolkit that we've already discussed. And then you want to think about, well, if I'm in a collaborative stance and I'm showing up with something as a coach, I need to be prepared for that. We don't want to find ourselves fumbling through our Google Drive or in the teacher's classroom and needing to run back to our office to grab a binder. And the same is true for the consultative stance. We want to make sure that we're coming prepared and coming to the table prepared so that we then make sure that we are guiding the work, that we've come with an idea of what we might need. And the best part is if you find yourself not needing those tools, great. That means that you've stayed in a coaching stance, and it turns out that the teacher you're working with had the capacity and the content knowledge for you to simply just kind of be their person who was pushing their thinking. But it's better to be prepared than find ourselves fumbling through a conversation. I hope you found this helpful.